Hey, how's it going, everyone? It is Blake here from ChessPathways.com, and I am starting out with a new series today called Roadmap to Master. Now, what I want to do in this series is break down the various stages of chess development step by step and show you what it takes to get to the next level from absolutely nothing starting out as a beginner all the way up to the master level. This is a journey I've personally gone through, and I want to help you be successful on this journey as well. So this is the first video in this series, and we're going to cover how to go from no chess background whatsoever, zero chess experience, to jumping in and getting started as a chess player. So if you are new to chess, this is the right place to be. If you're already a chess player, but you maybe have a friend who's interested in getting started, I'm hoping this will serve as a good reference point. You can direct them to this video. All right, let's get into it. So what are the key objectives you have to accomplish to go from no chess experience whatsoever to playing your first games and starting to make progress? Number one, you have to learn the rules of chess. That's where every chess player's journey starts. Secondly, we're going to talk about how to learn the basic strategy of chess, where you can go to get that information and put it into practice. Thirdly, you have to jump in. You have to start playing. And this is a big one. There's a lot of people out there who they're interested in chess, but they kind of just keep watching videos. They never really go and put it into action. And if you want to make progress, you have to actually play chess games yourself. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to do this online, and the best ways to start getting this ball rolling and playing your first chess games. And then fourth, last but not least, developing a passion for chess. And this is another big one. If you don't love this game, you're not going to get very far. So I'm going to give my thoughts there and talk about why we play chess. I think that's a big thing to kind of ask ourselves. You know, if you're a chess player and you're sending this video to someone else trying to get them interested in chess, trying to show them how to get started, one of the big questions they might have is, why should I care, right? Why should I choose to learn chess? There's so many hobbies out there. Why is this one the right one for me? So we'll talk about that. All right, first we can talk about how to learn the rules of chess. Now, there's tons of videos out there on YouTube covering the rules of chess. There's tons of articles you could read. I'm sure if you Google rules of chess, you'll find all kinds of good sources there. There's articles on chess.com, other chess sites. I have made a video covering the rules of chess. It's probably one of the longer videos out there on YouTube covering the rules of chess, because not only do I start out with covering how to set up the board and how the pieces move and how checkmate works, I also get into castling, en passant, all the ways the game can end in a draw. I even show an example of when a grandmaster forgot the rules of chess. So down in the description, I'm going to put a link to that video. I'm going to compile kind of a resource section for you down in the description. That's going to be one of the first things on there. If you want to watch that video to learn the rules, I think that's a good idea. I think you really need a very solid foundation of the rules of chess before moving on, so I think it's worth taking the time to really solidify that. If you would rather just read a quick article or watch someone else's video, that's totally fine too. Just make sure you're solid on the rules before moving on. I would dedicate about an hour just to make sure you're comfortable there. All right, let's talk about basic strategy. So I'm assuming you've gone and learned the rules. This is kind of your second step to getting started in chess. So once you know the rules, you know how to play a chess game, but you don't know what your objective should really be, other than this kind of abstract notion you want to checkmate the king, but how do you do it? So one thing to learn is the point count value of the pieces. This is a good guide map for chess players to help understand what exchanges are good for you and what exchanges are bad for you. You know, if you lose a pawn but you gain a rook, that's obviously good for you, right? A rook's more powerful than a pawn. Even beginners who have no concept of point count should be able to understand that, because once you learn how the pieces move, it's obvious that the rook is a much more powerful piece than the pawn. But once we start thinking about, what if you trade a knight for a bishop, or what if you lose a rook but you gain a knight and a pawn, starts to become a little more murky, right? So we have this point count value we teach beginners in chess to help them understand what exchanges are good and what exchanges are bad. In addition to point count, you have to understand the concepts of hanging pieces and counting. And these are kind of the fundamentals of what we call chess tactics. Hanging pieces is this idea that you shouldn't put a piece on a square where your opponent can threaten it and it's completely undefended by your own pieces. And vice versa, if your opponent puts a piece on a square where it can just be captured for free and your opponent has no pieces to reinforce it, you should usually take that piece. A very simple idea, if you take it at face value, but it takes a while to practice implementing this and being able to quickly identify when a piece is hanging, when it's able to be captured completely for free. Counting is kind of the next step up. That's when a piece has some pieces defending it from its own army, some pieces attacking it from the enemy army, and you have to ascertain if that piece is safe or if it's not. These three things are really the fundamental building blocks of what we call chess tactics. And tactics is kind of the hand-to-hand combat of chess. It's the mechanism by which pieces are won and lost, and the mechanism by which threats are made and executed on. It's the, if I go there, he goes there. If this, then that. The calculation aspect of chess. Now, if you Google chess tactics, or if you search it on YouTube, you're probably going to find a lot of videos talking about forks and pins and skewers and discovered attacks. All these more advanced tactics. Not too many people really talk about hanging pieces and counting. Probably because they think it's too basic, but they really misunderstand how important this is to a beginner to really master these two things. If you can do these two things really well, know when a piece is safe and when it's not, and capitalize on it when your opponent throws away their pieces for free, you're going to be crushing most beginners out there with just that alone. So if you want, again, you can look at some other sources out there. I have made a video on this. I have an introductory tactics video. I do get into some of those more advanced tactics, but for where you are right now, you can stop after I cover the point count and hanging pieces and counting and really just focus on those three things because they're that important. So once again, down in the description, I'm going to add this tactics video to your resources section for you to go watch. Finally, you should learn the simple checkmates of chess. These three skills above, these tactical basics, are going to give you the skills you need to get a big material advantage against a lot of beginners out there. If you can implement these three things better than they can, you're going to find in a lot of games your opponent pretty much runs out of pieces, they just have their king left, and you've taken pretty much their whole army. But how do you convert that into a checkmate? And that's really one of the most fundamental skills you have to master. So you can Google things like queen and king versus king checkmate, rook and king versus king checkmate, and if you learn how to checkmate with just a lone rook or a lone queen, that should help you have the confidence in those positions that even if you're left with just a queen and your opponent has nothing, you have what you need to checkmate them. You can deliver checkmate with just the queen. So you can look at other sources out there. Once again, I have a video covering this. I start out talking about how to win in overkill positions, where you just have tons of pieces left and your opponent has pretty much nothing. And then I get into those basic fundamental checkmates. Queen and king against a king, rook and king against a king. So I'll go ahead and add that to your resources section as well, down in the description. All right, next up, let's talk about jumping in. Let's talk about how you can go about playing your first chess games online. Now, there's many sites that will let you do this. There's chess.com, there's Elite Chess, there's others. The one I'm going to recommend is chess.com. So all I want you to do is go to chess.com and make an account on here. It's free to make one. And then all you have to do is go to Play, Live Chess, and you'll get to a screen that looks very much like this. This up here is the time control for the game. This is how fast or how slow the game's going to go, how much time is going to be on each player's clock. I would recommend playing 15-10 to start. That means each player is going to get 15 minutes, and as well, every time you make a move, you're going to get 10 seconds added to your clock to make sure you're never in a serious time scramble. No matter how low that clock gets, you're always going to have 10 seconds to make a move, and that's perfectly reasonable for where you're at right now as a beginner. The goal here is not to worry about winning or losing. It's just to get started. Jump in, start playing chess games. The best way to learn chess is to play chess. So don't worry too much about your results, just start playing. And there might also be an option to play either rated or unrated, and you might be tempted to play some unrated games first. You don't want to mess up your rating. Don't worry about that. Play rated games. One of the biggest advantages to playing rated online is that your rating will very quickly adjust to how well you're playing, and it's going to help match you against other people close to your rating so you can play better games. Now, after you've played a few games and you've gotten your feet wet, it might help you to start analyzing your games and trying to figure out what's going wrong in the games you're losing. So this is once again very easy to do. Pretty much every chess site has this capability. On chess.com, you can just go here to Play and go to Archive, and it will show you a list of your previous games, and you can click on them, and you can go through the games just like this. You can click through the arrows. So what I would be looking for is try to identify moments where you lost a piece for free. Right? Maybe you had a position where you lost a knight and got nothing in return. Try to identify what happened in those positions and see if you could have prevented it. My guess is that at this phase of your chess development, most of the pieces you lose are because you missed a hanging piece. Right? You just put a piece on a square where it had no defenders and the opponent took it. So try to identify those moments in your games and try to think about what caused them to happen. Not just, I didn't see the queen so I put the knight there. Yeah, that's true, but why? Were you playing too fast? Did you not think about what your opponent's options were before you played the move? Try to think about what caused you to do that, and you can start identifying patterns in what's causing you to make these mistakes so you can help to eliminate them from your game. One important thing is not to be distracted by all the gadgets and kind of features on some of these sites. Don't worry about what it says here about it being a book move. Don't worry about the number here. Just go through the games yourself at this point and try to identify those big mistakes where you lost a piece for free. So we've covered how to play your first games. We've covered how to review your games and look for your mistakes. The third aspect of jumping in would also be looking at some tactics puzzles, which are basically just positions that are generated for you to help you train your tactical skills. Now there's many sites, once again, that will do this for you. Lee Chess has one. There's one called Chess Tempo that a lot of people like. Chess.com has one, but I think you have to pay for it. I think you get a certain number of free ones per day, but you can pay to get unlimited. I'll just use the Chess.com one for now to show you what this looks like. So you can go here to Puzzles, and it has many options for you. Let's just go to Puzzles. Alright, so we get this screen here. Training is probably what I would recommend. That's kind of similar to what most online tactics trainers do. Usually it gives you a rating, and the better you do, the harder the puzzles get. The worse you do, the easier the puzzles get. I would start out doing that because it's going to very quickly adjust to your current skill level and give you puzzles that are relevant to where you are right now. Which means it's not going to be giving you very complex, multiple move, forks, pins, skewers. It's going to be focusing on counting and hanging pieces, which is what you need to solidify at this point. I'm going to click on Rush right now because if I do training, it's going to give me hard ones because I already have a high rating here. So let's start with Rush. I think usually the first couple it gives you with Rush are relatively easy. So it might give you a position like this. So it had them just take here. You would think about what you would play here with white. Sometimes it's a checkmate. Sometimes it's just winning material. If you want, you can pause the video right now and think about it. But the answer here is we can actually checkmate black. We can take the bishop. That's check. The king is stuck here on the back rank. The rook has to take, and then we can take back, and it's a checkmate. That's called a back rank checkmate. So let's go for that. Checkmate gives you the next one. This one is once again a checkmate. I'll give you a second to pause the video and think about this one if you want. One tip when it comes to tactics, just in general, and this goes for your whole chess career, is you always want to consider checks, captures, and threats in any given position. So here I see we can give it check, and black can't really block this check too easily. They could block with the bishop, but we just take it, and it's still check. Or they can move the king, and then you would calculate again from that position. Do we have any checks, captures, or threats there? Well, we do. We have rook to f8, and that's actually checkmate. It's supported by this bishop, so the king cannot take it, and there's nowhere else the king can go. We control all of these squares. So check, they can block if they want to, doesn't change a thing. And if they came there, it would be checkmate, so we got it right. And then it gives you the next puzzle. So that's how this works. Like I said, there's many ways you can do this, many different sites, but I would get started doing this. It's a great way to train your tactics, and like I said, that's one of the biggest ways to improve at this phase of your chess development. So we've covered the first 3 points here, and then finally let's talk about why we play chess. Chess can be kind of frustrating at first when you're first getting started, because you're going to be upset with yourself for making the same mistakes, seemingly over and over again, saying, why did I move that there? If you can just take it, Such an obvious blunder, but you keep doing it again and again because it takes time to build up this muscle of always identifying if your move is safe before you play it. A lot of games between beginners look pretty similar to each other too. One player throws away their whole army before the other player does, and the player with the remaining pieces, of course, goes on to win the game. It really comes down to who's going to make the least amount of mistakes, but it gets tiresome after a while to keep making these mistakes game after game. So what's the light at the end of the tunnel here? Well, one of the things I've always loved most about chess is how the better you get, the more exciting your games become. As a beginner, sure, it can be a contest of who throws away their pieces the fastest, and the opponent wins the game, of course. But as you get better, you start thinking about more complex tactics, forks, pins, skewers, more complex calculation. Both players start bringing opening preparation to the game. This mental battle between the two participants becomes more and more intense the better the players get at this game. Your goal right now is to get consistent enough with these basic tactics. Counting, hanging pieces, doing your tactics trainer exercises until you can beat beginners consistently. And your rating's going to keep going up on these sites until eventually you realize that what you have is not enough. It's not enough to just be consistent tactically and to not hang too many pieces, because the people you're playing aren't hanging their pieces either. And now what? What's the next step? How do I beat players who don't just make mistakes all over the place? And that's when the next challenge begins. And if that sounds like something that would frustrate you or, be annoying to you, then, maybe chess isn't for you. But if you're excited by that prospect of having to dive deeper into chess to start beating these players, then, you're in the right spot. As far as why we play chess, I think there's a lot of reasons we play chess, and I think those reasons vary from person to person. One is, of course, the competitiveness, just like people who play sports or other similar activities. I think as humans, we're hardwired to compete, right? And we're far removed from kind of the origins of that, of having to compete for food and survival and things like that, but it's still somewhere deep within us, and chess gives us an outlet for that desire. I know I've played in tournament games before where my king was under a big attack, my opponent's king was under a big attack, we were both getting low on time, and I could feel my heart start to race faster. And after the game, I was like, why is my heart racing over, sitting at a board with some wooden pieces and a clock, right? It doesn't make sense if you think about it that way. But the game means something because we say it means something. We give it that competitive meaning, that competitive drive behind it, and it gives you that feeling of a competition that we can't really get from too many other places in modern life. For some people, they view chess as an art. We saw some very basic tactical puzzles today. There are some beautifully composed positions out there where someone has to find an amazing, picturesque combination to win the game, which can really appeal to our sense of beauty. For some people, chess is a science. Going back to some of the classic works of chess literature, talking about formulating the basics of pawn structure and how that works, going back to Philidor, talking about my system with Nimzovich, and it's really become this kind of formalized, body of knowledge that continually expands as top players keep pushing the envelope and coming up with new innovations in this game. So is chess a sport? Is chess a form of art? Is chess a science? Is chess a simulated form of war? All of these things have been said about chess, and I think they're all true to different people in different ways. But I hope this discussion gives you some of the motivation you need to put the work in and get started as a chess player. Alright, thanks for watching everyone, and 2 things before we go. Number 1, make sure you look down in the description. I've put a resources section down there for you covering all the resources we talked about today, as well as my own chess site, chesspathways.com. Make sure you go there and get signed up. It's totally free, and I will send you a free move-by-move guide to chess thinking when you join. So you don't want to miss out on that. Make sure you sign up at Chess Pathways. Secondly, if you want more information about this chess journey and you want me to walk you through how I went through this journey myself, going from pretty much a complete beginner to becoming one of the top few thousand players in the US and beyond that, I also have a link down in the description for you to my video course called Pathway to Success. It has over 7 hours of video content. I cover everything from my first games online that I ever played, all the way up to my first 50 tournament games. I analyze every single one, talk about my thoughts, talk about my takeaways from the games, and how I was improving between tournaments to keep making progress. So if you're interested, click the link down below. You'll get a discount when you click the link in this video. Thanks everyone, please hit that subscribe button, and I will see you again soon.